And let's bring in criminal defense and civil rights attorney Phillip Hamilton for more analysis here. Phillip, what did you make of the dispute over whether Floyd said, "I ate too many drugs" or "I ain't doing no drugs"? We know that he had drugs in his system, so why the focus on what he said there?
Well, in many respects, it is upon the defense at this point to try to cut into the prosecution's burden. And one of the ways, I think, for all of the arguments that they've proffered in this case, one of the more credible ones at least, is the issue of causation. So to the extent that the defense can highlight the fact that it wasn't necessarily Officer Chauvin's knee that caused the asphyxiation that killed Mr. Floyd, but rather some combination of other factors that, even outside of the pressure of Officer Chauvin's knee, resulted and or caused the death of Mr. Floyd. And so to the extent that the focus then became on, is there a concession that Mr. Floyd is saying that he ate too many drugs? Well, then in that moment, it can potentially help undercut some of the testimony that was provided by paramedics last week, who in a sense testified that upon arriving to the scene, Mr. Floyd was essentially having no pulse and that essentially he was dead upon their arrival. Well, to the extent that you want to undercut that argument, if you highlight the fact that based upon your understanding of what you're hearing, Mr. Floyd is saying that he ate too many drugs, it can again just simply highlight that argument that the causation here may not be as simple as the prosecution is trying to make it seem.
Now, we also heard a lot of questions about the exact position of Chauvin's knees on Floyd's body and whether his left knee was on the side of the neck, the base of the neck, the shoulder. How effective was that questioning?
You know, I think it is effective most particularly in the sense that when you're talking about the pressure and what ultimately could cause the asphyxiation, clearly the positioning of the knee is going to be, quite critical for the prosecution. And to the extent that they know that they're dealing with these undercutting arguments from the defense, in that, potentially it wasn't Chauvin's knee that caused the asphyxiation, but again, it was actually some other cause of death just altogether that caused Mr. Floyd's death. At the end of the day, they need to highlight, again, the deadly force that was used on behalf of Chauvin. And as we heard from a lot of the police experts yesterday, just unnecessary force that went well beyond what would be needed at a certain point to control Mr. Floyd. And I think it was particularly telling when you had the expert from the LAPD, again, an organization that we know from an historical standpoint has been rife with allegations of excessive force dating, back to the Rodney King days, and before that with the Watts riots, and then even afterwards. To have somebody come in from the LAPD and say that the force was deadly and unnecessary, I think it was quite telling. So, in regards to, again, the positioning of the knee and everything along those lines, the prosecution had to hit those arguments because they know that they're trying to be undercut by the defense in regards to the causation issue.
So what are you watching for as the trial resumes this morning?
Well, I want to hear a little bit more just about the toxicology-related issues, and in terms of the fact that we're going to have some medical experts coming in. Again, the prosecution, I don't think that they're worried based upon the case that they've put forth, and of course the video that we've all seen just from an international standpoint over the course of the last year that resulted, or as we watched, I should say, Mr. Floyd's death. One of the things that they do have to worry about, again, is that causation argument. So to the extent that they're putting on the medical testimony today to try to most likely refute the fact that it really had anything to do from a primary standpoint with Mr. Floyd's heart condition or, some of the substance abuse related issues that may have been involved in this matter, but that more specifically, it was Officer Chauvin's knee and Officer Chauvin's actions, in a sense, that caused Mr. Floyd's death. And so I'm looking just to see kind of more how substantively we're going to get into that testimony, because I think it'll be quite telling for the prosecution.
All right. Attorney Phillip Hamilton, we appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.